We have lots to discuss here in today's video, including recapping some big playoff games, including Jets Blues from last night, Avs and Stars Game 7 here tonight. We have the Mikko Rantanen Revenge Tour on full effect. Plus, we have some offseason trade speculation around the recently eliminated Ottawa Senators and Los Angeles Kings, as well as some rumors around the Buffalo Sabres, the coaching position that's open with the Philadelphia Flyers. Plus, we have some signings today, including a big one in Calgary from Matt Coronato, Freddie Andersen in Carolina, and lots of other updates around the NHL coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have lots to discuss here in tonight's video. Of course, we just wrapped up Game 7 here for the Colorado Avalanche and Dallas Stars. It was an epic game, highly entertaining, lots of back and forth hockey. The Avalanche looked like they had them. Early in the third period, Nate MacKinnon, first shift, there's a delayed penalty. MacKinnon comes out after the goalie gets off, scores a go-ahead goal like 30 seconds into the third period. Avs are up 2-0. Looks like they're in a pretty good spot. But, of course, not too long after, Dallas makes it 2-1. Of course, they got a couple of power plays, and they took advantage of them, and they ended up coming back with the Mikko Rantanen Revenge Tour. Mikko Rantanen scores a hat trick in the third period, including the empty net goal to seal the fate for the Avalanche going out against the Dallas Stars. I believe that's the third time in the last 4 or 5 years that the Stars have eliminated the Avalanche. I know they lost last year to the Stars in round 2. But yeah, certainly with Rantanen being in the mix, made things a little bit different, a little bit more emotional. It was an emotional handshake line with Rantanen shaking hands, of course, with his former teammates and great friends and guys he considers brothers with, MacKinnon, Makar, Landeskog, etc. But unfortunately, the Avalanche choked this one away. One of Rantanen's goals was a lucky bounce off the skate of Sam Jerard. And even the penalty calls. You can make an argument that you don't see a lot of calls late in a game, in a tie game, Game 7. But the Stars got a power play with, I think there was, 4 minutes or something left on the holding penalty that they called. And it was a complete tackle to the ice. Like, yes, it is 100% a normal penalty. I mean, sometimes you see, you just get a different standard sometimes. Sometimes you feel like the players basically need to commit a serious crime or a murder sometimes before you're going to get a call. And other times it's like, nope, they're just right by the rule book. But, could you argue that the Avalanche calls were bad? Not really. The only argument is that sometimes they don't make them in big games like that. They let them play. But yeah, certainly bad timing for the penalties. The Avalanche take advantage. Rantanen goes on a revenge tour and gets a hat trick at 4 points and has completely dominated the Avalanche in this series. So, yeah, that Rantanen trade, not looking so good right now. Yeah, they could have used a guy like him tonight. And all for Toronto Maple Leaf fans out there, remember, your Leafs tried to get Rantanen, had to give up Marner. Marner said no, wouldn't waive. We'll see, obviously, how things go. But if the Leafs don't proceed by winning any further into the playoffs, you gotta, that would have been a game-changing trade for the franchise. But I guess the only other possibility we could see now, which would make things even more interesting, is there any chance we'd see Rantanen against the Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup Final? Is he going to go on a revenge tour against his former team? Both teams have a lot of work to do before that can happen, of course. But interesting games. So Peter DeBoer and his, I don't know, he's about 9-0 in Game 7s. So he's got like the Black Magic or whatever he's got there. Yeah. But the Avalanche choked. So DeBoer continues to win Game 7s. Jared Bednar continues to lose Game 7s. The Avalanche, really, since they won the Stanley Cup, have not had a lot of playoff success outside of one series win against the Jets last year. I do wonder if we could see some more serious changes. Is it time for a Bednar change? I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if he stays. Wouldn't be shocked if they made a change. But yeah, they're going to have some tough choices to make with the cap and everything coming up. They don't have a deep prospect pool. Be curious to see where this team goes here over the course of the offseason. Of course, we saw the return last night of playoff Hellebuck in the St. Louis Blues routed the Jets for a 5-2 win to force Game 7, which will be tomorrow night. So we get another treat of a Game 7. So yeah, that was not a great game by Hellebuck. I mean, I wouldn't blame it all on him by any means. The team in front of him was not very good last night, and they certainly did not deserve to win that game. But what will happen? It's been a complete homer series so far in that Jets-Blues series. So can the Jets use the whiteout to win Game 7 tomorrow night in advance, or are they going to end up losing this one to the Blues as well? We'll have to see, but it's remarkable, the difference between Connor Hellebuyck in the regular season and the playoffs. You just can't explain it. You just can't. Mark Scheifele right now considered a game-time decision for the Jets tomorrow night. He did skate today, but he skated on his own with Skills, our assistant coach, and he was only in a tracksuit, not even in full equipment. So we don't even know if it's, what kind of jersey he would have worn had there been a full participant in practice or anything like that. We may get a better idea tomorrow if they have like an optional skate in the morning or something, but I don't know, hard to say what happens with Scheifele, where it sounds like it was a concussion. It's really hard to predict though, so not even going to try. Of course, the round 2 series that we know so far will kick off Monday with the Leafs and Avalanche. Tuesday, Caps, Canes. I believe Vegas, Edmonton is going on Tuesday as well. And of course, now we know it's going to be Dallas against somebody, but we don't know who yet. So that one, of course, has not yet been scheduled. A bunch of other news updates around the NHL. We got a bunch of teams with openings with GM, coaches, etc. New York Islanders, let's start there. Apparently, the latest intel from them is that they're focused on hiring a president of hockey operations at the present time. Obviously, they appear to be going the two-prong approach of having a president and GM, not just a GM reporting to ownership. So sounds like that's task number 1 is hiring a president. The president will then hire the GM, and then they'll make a decision on the coaching staff and Patrick Waugh after that. So Patrick Waugh might have to wait a little while. I mean, he is technically under contract. So, would it be shocking if the Islanders bring in a new regime in the front office, but then, maybe let Waugh and his staff start the season before they make a choice, kind of like what we saw, for example, like in Ottawa when we get the new ownership change. Then they brought in a new GM, and then they kind of gave DJ Smith some time, and then it was like, okay, yep, no, we've seen enough. You're gone, and then they'll kind of bring in their own people later. We'll have to wait and see how they go about things. We've heard the names of Ken Holland being in the mix, probably for president role. He's working for the league right now. He's definitely interested in getting back involved. And we've heard Mark Bergevin's name, former Habs GM, being in the mix there as well as Jarmo Kekalainen. So we'll have to see. There's likely others too. Those are the ones we've heard of here so far. Now, of course, a couple of signings here today. Calgary Flames signed a long-term deal with youngster Matt Coronato, 7-year deal with an average annual value of $6.5 million. The kid had a phenomenal season. Really took some big steps in his development this year and appears to be a big piece in the team's future. So certainly, I know Craig Conroy, based on his comments, sees him as somebody who will grow continuously here and has not yet peaked or hit a ceiling. So certainly they have big hopes for him, and he should have no problems. I think this is a fair contract, that this is not going to take a lot of growth from him to really live up to it. So there's a good potential, if he continues to improve at the level that some people expect, that it could not only be a good contract, it might have really good value here over the next few years. So Coronato, like I said, had a breakthrough year and earned himself a nice long-term deal with the Flames. And the Canes today also announced that they've extended veteran goaltender Freddie Andersen another 1-year deal for the Danish goaltender, 1 year, $2.75 million. But there is a bonus in there, of course, considering his age and everything like that. You can build in bonuses. So there's an extra $750K that he can earn as games played bonuses. There's different levels. I think there was 2 regular season targets, and I think one of them was playing so many playoff games as well. So they're all different structures in there. So $275 to start, the $750 if they don't have the space at the end of the year. Whatever he earns out of that money can be tacked on to the following year's salary cap if they need to. Now, the recently eliminated Los Angeles Kings could still make some announcements on some decisions here, but right now we're going to go with some updates from the John Hovendemeer's Manor, who's very well connected with the Kings. And right now he's saying that when it comes to the coaching staff and management, that he is hearing is very likely that Jim Hiller returns behind the bench and that Rob Blake returns as general manager. The other day I was quite vocal in saying I think they need to change both of those positions, especially the coach. Blake's been there for quite a long time. in my opinion, they went about things wrong. I mean, and we'll see. Maybe they'll prove me wrong here. And I guess for their sake, maybe I kind of hope they do, because I obviously like to see teams be successful. But in my opinion, they rushed the rebuild because of Kopitar and Doughty. They did not want to be going through these lean years when they were in their prime years, ready to try to win. And they went to management and said, we don't want a full rebuild. So, we want you to do things differently. And they listened to them. They rushed things. They went out and they did a lot of moves through free agency. Take a look at their roster. For a rebuilding team, how many draft picks did they have that actually hit and became good big pieces there? Not a lot, really. Like, the team was not, like, they have a few that are starting to get there, like Byfield. Obviously, has had a lot of improvements the past 2 years. Brent Clark is getting there, but look at all their other picks. A lot of them haven't really panned out. Alex Turcotte, is he playing? Yeah, but not really to the level you think a pick that high would go. They ended up trading Gabe Vilardi. In my opinion, they just haven't really had a lot of prospects hit like you would think they would, considering how many high picks they had. And not only high picks, but like second rounders too. Like, this team is largely built through trade and free agency. Look at Kevin Fiala comes in via trade. They had traded for Dubois, traded him for Kemper. Obviously look at like Gavrikov came by trade. Philip Deneau was a free agent signing. There's a lot of these guys, right? I mean, obviously Kempe's been there a long time, Kopitar, Doughty, but they've kind of reshaped this team in a bit of an untraditional way because they rush things, and then which is fine. I mean, they're a good team. It's not like they're a horrible team or anything like that. But they do need to make some changes. But I don't know. I'm just not a Jim Hiller fan. I think he blew that series against the Oilers, and he just doesn't come across as being an overly bright coach. But that's just my take on Hiller. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see. But some other updates out of LA today from Hoven and Mayor's Manor. Trevor Lewis appears to be retiring, so we'll wait and get confirmation on that. But look, that's what he believes is going to happen there. Backup goalie David Riddick, not expected to be brought back. He's expected to be let go into free agency. Right now, it looks like they're hoping and expecting Eric Portillo to move up and be the number 2 goaltender in the organization next year. Andre Lee expected to likely get more of a full-time role next year as well. The expectation is that Gavrikov, he is a UFA or will be on July 1st if he makes it there. But the feeling is that there's still a good chance that he's going to re-sign. Uncertainty around the futures of Tanner Jeannot and Andrei Kuzmenko. Both are pending unrestricted free agents. And I think there's a decent possibility that they end up actually hitting free agency and don't come back, but I wouldn't completely rule that out based on the comments from Hoven, but wouldn't put a lot of faith in it that they will be coming back. They didn't really play, and Jeannot was dealing with a lot of injuries. Kuzmenko wasn't bad, though, for the time he was there. I wouldn't completely rule it out, but it might be tricky for them to figure that out on a longer-term basis, so we'll see about that. The Philadelphia Flyers are another team we're talking about here today as well, with some updates on the coaching situation. 4 names that are being kind of monitored right now, according to NHL insiders, on who's got the inside track to maybe being the next full-time head coach of the Flyers, and that includes the current interim head coach, Brad Shaw. He's definitely going to be considered. He's obviously somebody they're quite familiar with and somebody that they respect, so they're definitely going to give him an opportunity to be the full-time head coach. But again, he didn't have a long run as the interim, but he's definitely going to get consideration. Of course, Rick Tocchet, the now former head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, with ties to the Flyers organization from his playing days. So there's, he comes in as a recent Jack Adams winner and somebody who's going to be a highly sought-after guy. According to Elliot Friedman, another name to watch too could be Jay McKee. Of course, Jay McKee, former NHL player, played a long time, was a teammate of Danny Brière's when they were with the Sabres, and has had a very successful coaching career in the OHL. I know at one point, before the Senators hired Travis Green, there was some talk that maybe McKee end up as a potential candidate or a strong candidate for the Senators, because he does have ties to Steve Staios and Michael Andlauer from the OHL team that Andlauer owned, and the Bulldogs. So, Of course, they went in a different direction, so I don't think there's any chance that the Sens head coaching job is going to be open for a while. So, maybe at some point they reunite, but he's definitely a candidate there for being, connected through to Danny Briere. And he is a guy that, of course, is, an up-and-coming coach. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get an opportunity here soon. And, of course, I had mentioned the other day, Pat Firschweiler as well, the college coach, also in the mix there, too, in Philadelphia. Now, around some other trade talk and things that we can see in the offseason and the rumor mill, we got Buffalo and Ottawa, the Sabres. Lots of talk around defenseman Mattias Samuelsson. Of course, we know the Sabres are going to probably consider a variety of moves, considering how long they've been out of the playoffs. We have not really heard anything about the future of Kevin Adams. The longer that drags on, I suspect he's going to remain in his post for now. We know that when they did their end of season kind of postmortem, end of year media, he did indicate he would be meeting with ownership in a few days. It's been a little while, of course. For most teams, they've been out of the regular season now for a couple weeks, and we haven't heard anything on that. The belief was that Adams had no intentions of moving on from Lindy Ruff, and you get the feeling from a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff that the Sabres have posted that Lindy Ruff actually has a pretty big voice in that organization as well, more than the average head coach, I'd say. But with all that said, it was really going to be Adams was been the main one to watch. If Kevin Adams wasn't going to be brought back, would the next GM want Lindy, or would he want a different coach? So, given now that, it seems like he's staying just because it's been a while. We haven't heard anything. Most teams don't take that long to make a decision, but we don't know 100% that's happening. But Mattias Samuelsson is a name that's out there for a couple of reasons. One, largely because of, we'll say, injuries and inconsistencies. He did play better down the stretch to end the year. Obviously, Samuelson's got, big size. Obviously, somebody who at one point was considered a very valuable piece. They signed him to a long-term deal. Thought maybe he could be the ideal partner for Rasmus Dahlin. Things haven't quite worked out, like I said, between injuries, inconsistencies, and then there was some, you could say, character judgment, lack of leadership when, because he's a guy that is as big as he is, I think they get a little frustrated that he doesn't play overly physical, and they like to see more out of him from a physical standpoint as well, or sticking it for teammates, that kind of thing. Like I know earlier this year when Tage Thompson, had taken a bad hit and they were waiting for a response, and nobody stepped up. I think they kind of expected him, because he was right there on the ice, to maybe be that guy. He's, big, strong, tough defender, but yet doesn't always play like it. So it can be kind of player that you like, but he kind of leaves you wanting more. And so there is some talk that if they can find a way to upgrade and maybe get a different style of player that they like better, that he could be a guy that moves. Again, we've heard lots of different things out of Buffalo. They started with the Cousins for Norris trade, and there's probably going to be a few more moves, so we'll see. And, of course, in Ottawa, we heard their end-of-season media today, unfortunately, after losing in Game 6 to the Leafs on Thursday night. Today was their locker cleanout day. We heard plenty from the coaches and numerous players. A couple of names we want to keep an eye on. One, the future of Claude Giroux, very much heavily discussed here today. Everything we had heard towards the end of the regular season led to believe that there's very much mutual interest between the Sens and Giroux for him to re-sign and return. Arguably the greatest UFA signing the team has ever made. Just finished a 3-year deal. That was a very fair value. I think he gave them a lot for what he was paid. But can you tell that he's kind of slowing down a little bit? Yes, but he still has lots to give, and he's still a very valuable member of that team. Listening to the players talk, especially Brady and Tim Stützle, etc., they absolutely love this guy and really appreciate all the advice and tips and experience and leadership and everything he brings. Just from the cohesiveness of the unit in the room, I think that there's a very good chance he's back. However, they do have to agree on a contract. It's just that simple. Would he take a bit of a pay cut? He was making $6.5 million before. Is he going to have to take a little bit less to stay? Probably. But how much less is he willing to go? I mean, when first year in Ottawa, he was around a point per game player. Now he's more like a 50-point player, but he had the best face-off win percentage in the NHL. Like I said, plus he brings a lot of things to his game and leadership that you can't really, it's hard to kind of measure, right? So unless they come to like an absolute impasse on how much his contract should be, we expect him to return. But he said he had an opportunity to kind of say, I want to be here, I want to resign, and he didn't say it. Doesn't mean he doesn't think it or feel it, because a lot of you got to remember he's a what you call like a wily veteran. He knows about negotiations and how they work better than most people on that team. He was asked, he said, haven't really had time to think about it yet, haven't really given it much thoughts, haven't talked to Steve Staios yet. Didn't say he didn't want to, be there. Didn't say anything negative. Said he loved the team. He loved the city. Loves the players. He really enjoys the room and the bond the team has. Really happy with the team's progress. Nothing but glowing statements on everything else. But just when it came to his contract, I guess some fans were a little disappointed he didn't explicitly say, yes, I want to be here, I hope they sign me. But you know what? You don't want to sound too desperate either. Like, that's part of negotiations. You'd be like, yeah, I haven't really thought about it yet. If they want me and they're willing to give me what I think is fair, I definitely want to stay. But, of course, he's not going to come out and say that. So we'll see. But optimism is high that Giroux returns. Otherwise, if he does end up leaving, I would expect him to sign a 1-year deal somewhere, and just for the sake of chasing a Stanley Cup before he's all said and done. Expectations are that Anton Forsberg likely not returning. I know Linus Ullmark had a lot of good things to say about him. They've known each other since their younger days in Sweden when they were teammates back in Modo. Ullmark went on to say how important Forsberg and his family was for helping him get acclimated to the team and the city and everything like that. And having a familiar face was very helpful. But the thing is Forsberg's contract's up. They have Levi Merilainen, who they believe is ready to step into that role as the number 2 goalie in the organization. And the NHL free agent market for goalies is quite thin. There is only 2 goalies right now that are pending unrestricted free agents that have played at least 10 games last year that have a 900-plus save percentage, and it's Anton Forsberg and it's Jake Allen. And that's it. Everybody else has a sub-900 save percentage. So the most likely scenario is that Forsberg's going to have more opportunity to get a longer term or more money from another team. Teams that are a little bit more in need of goaltending are likely going to want to pay somebody like him more than Ottawa will. Otherwise, if that offer doesn't seem to be there, though, could I see them bringing Forsberg back on a 1-year deal just to give a little more depth to the position and to have more of a challenge for Merilainen when you get to training camp? That's a possibility, but Forsberg would have to take less than what he's going to get on the open market, and I just don't likely see it happening. With Ottawa as well, there's definitely some focus on their D-core. We know Nick Jensen played hurt for probably the last couple months of the year for sure. He didn't want to reveal the injury today because he wasn't quite sure yet what the recovery process was going to look like. He may or may not need surgery. They don't know. Hasn't been quite determined yet, but it certainly impacted his mobility for sure. He was a lot more mobile and impactful in the first half of the season. According to Bruce Garriock, though, in his kind of summation of everything he's heard around the team, is that they may look for a right shot defenseman type of upgrade. Their left side's in excellent shape with Thomas Chabot, Jake Andersen, and Tyler Clevin, who had an amazing playoff. He really stepped up his game and was quite strong for them. So the left side is in great shape. When Clevin needs a new deal, he's probably going to be offered I would suspect a longer term or maybe it's a bridge deal, but I think the team's very, very pleased with his development. So we'll see. But, the left side's in great shape. On the right side, you've got Nicholas Mattenpalo, who came in this year as a bit of a surprise as a right shot guy. He could be back as a third pair guy for sure. But then you've got Jensen and Zub, both stay-at-home style defensemen. Who typically are very solid defensively. Not that they're not. The concern with both is their foot speed, and more so on Zub than Jensen, because Jensen is more injury-related. Zub's a big fan favorite. They love to yell his name and chant Zub when he's got the puck. But the problem with Zub is he's not overly quick. He's one of the slower defensemen, and he relies heavily on his intelligence and positioning and good stick to kind of make sure that that's rarely an issue. But there was definitely times in the playoffs where it became an apparent problem. So doesn't mean for sure that they would trade him, but I think they're going to at least explore options to see if there's are there any other options and things that make sense for this team where they could upgrade that position? With Jensen, he's got a couple years on his contract, like Zub, similar money. I don't necessarily think it's not a given either of them get traded. I just think that they're definitely going to explore the market for some potential upgrades and see what they can figure out. It seems unlikely that Travis Hamonic will be back. He had a bit of an emotional interview, trying to, obviously talked a lot about how much he loved it there, but I just don't see them offering him a new contract. And he didn't say so, but he did say he talked to Staios this morning, so I'm pretty sure he already knows. They just haven't officially announced it here just yet. But the big thing that you're going to see the Sens do is probably try to consider a right side D upgrade, and they'll probably try to add one more impactful forward up front. Of course, they got to figure out where Zetterlund fits in long term. He needs a new deal as well, but definitely some moving parts. But I would expect probably 3/4 of the team back with a few tweaks here and there, trying to make a few more upgrades to see if they can get a little bit stronger, mostly depth-wise. Like, they did struggle a little bit to score in the playoffs. Another, winger who can help produce that, I think, would be helpful. And then, of course, like I said, on the right side of their blue line, just a little questionable if they can't make that better and stronger, and we'll kind of go from there. So that is all your updates here for today. Let me know your thoughts on all today's news and rumors in the comment section. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.